Hey, Jared.
Yes.
Why do bankers call it wealth management?
Specifically wealth. You kind of accented that. Is it just that word or the whole thing? Wealth
Quote,
management.
wealth management.
Okay.
Quote unquote wealth management.
Because they're taking all of your money, whether you like it or not.
Close. It's your money, yet somehow they manage to keep most of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure. Yeah. So pretty much it. Yeah.
You're close. You're close.
Man.
Hey, welcome back to Screen Time Film, a podcast where we discuss director's filmography. We are currently talking about Adam McKay and getting to the tail end of his movies that he's done so far. Jared, truth is like poetry, and most people hate poetry.
Yeah. It's true.
So yeah, my name's Josh, and this is my co-host Jared.
It's a nice haircut, Josh. Did you do it yourself?
I know you can't see. I get the hat on.
Just a line that I love that I didn't remember from watching this movie before, and it just made me laugh this time.
Yeah, there's some good lines in general. Oh, yeah. All right, so today we are discussing The Big Short. Came out in 2015, rated R, 2 hours and 10 minutes. In 2006/2007, or from 2006 to 2000, a group of investors bet against the United States mortgage market. In their research, they discovered how flawed and corrupt the market is. So this film was directed by Adam McKay, written by Adam McKay, Charles Randolph, and Michael Lewis. It's based on the book, I think, by Michael Lewis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's on a book.
Cinematography, Barry Ackroyd.
Yeah.
He did The Hurt Locker.
Yeah.
United 93. Both also kind of based on true story, like doc kind of style cinematography.
Oh, okay. So he's already done something like this.
So I mean, to kind of fit the I think the style that this film has here. Composer Nicholas Breitel.
Oh yeah, this man's a legend.
Yeah, I mean, did
you realize who this was?
No, I mean, when I looked it up, I was like, that name sounds familiar. And then I looked at his stuff and like,
oh yeah,
I mean, he's doing Andor, I mean, which is currently.
Yes.
Also, the funny thing is like a lot of similarities in this film to then in a lot of ways to Succession, the TV show. And then it's like he composed stuff for Succession.
He did. And he made one of the best main themes, which is the main theme of that show. It's sick.
Yeah, and then Moonlight, the film, and plenty of other stuff, I guess. Those are the kind of highlights I pulled out.
Yeah, he's, I looked just to see what else, because I just know this main stuff you already mentioned that of his. But he does basically the last two movies as well that we're going to do.
Oh, okay.
And he did do some stuff, or at least some of Winning Time, which we mentioned is the kind of the newest show that Adam McKay is part of and directed some of. Not much, but he's kind of more, I guess, executive produced, just like Succession. I know he directed one of those. Adam McKay did, and I don't know how much he was involved in that.
Yeah, I know he's not like a writer or anything on it. So
no, yeah.
Or the showrunner. But, all right. So, production costs. What do you think?
Oh, man, this is tough because I nailed at least two of these since we started Adam McKay, like the production costs. And this one, I'm like, man, I don't know, because it's like not crazy production wise, but the amount of people that are in it, it's like, I don't know. But at this point in Adam McKay's career, it's like, could he get a lot of these people and then just be like, yeah, sure, and not really have to pay them much, So It's tough. I'm gonna go with the same guess I did for probably either the other guys or the last one. I don't remember what I did, but 100 million. No.
Well, 28 million.
Holy crap. That's very impressive. That is lower than Anchorman, or right around the same as his very first movie, I think.
I think some of what comes to do is because the way they shot this, they probably reduced the amount of like just overall lighting and things that they had to do. Like the crew was probably smaller because they were shooting it to look like a doc, and so that they weren't.
That's true.
So,
but I'm also taking into account this is only 10 years old now, so it's like budgets at this point, I imagine.
They probably but they also maybe they didn't shoot on film, and some of the older ones they shot on film, and that can cut costs sometimes. I don't know.
I'm just jaded now by like if any movie that's kind of new, I'm just like thinking way higher just because budgets are insane for not only movies, TV shows as well now. So I just But that's amazing. 24 million.
All right, so this won an Oscar for Best Writing Adapted Screenplay.
Nice.
Also was nominated for Best Picture, Best Performance by an Actor in a Supporting Role, Best Achievement in Directing, and Best Achievement in Film Editing.
That's awesome.
Nominated for all those.
I didn't know it had that many nominations. Who was the supporting actor? Christian Bale?
I don't know. It didn't list it, and so I didn't look at it.
I bet it was him.
Yeah, probably.
Just because it's a very, very different character than what he normally
I mean, that was definitely. I'm trying to think. Like, I mean, who would you say is the lead in this?
Well, it's kind of our main four.
I know. That's what I was like.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the hell.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I mean, I guess kind of Steve Carell's character is kind of the lead, I guess. Then Ryan Gosling's character is the one that does the narrator.
It's kind of the main four are all leads though, so they weren't really.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's complicated for this movie.
All right, so obviously there's a lot of people in this film, but
yeah,
I just basically list the people that I kind of recognize and don't think I missed anybody. Again, I do this afterwards. I don't do it as I find them when I'm watching it. But we got Ryan Gosling, Christian Bale, Steve Carell, Marissa Tomei, Jeremy Strong, Anthony Bourdain, Brad Pitt, Max Greenfield, Karen Gillan, Selena Gomez, and Margot Robbie.
Yeah.
Did you?
No, I mean, there's plenty more as well, but like essentially all the people that are with Ryan Gosling are all familiar to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot, but yeah, we don't have to name.
I mean, those
them all.
The rest of them, I didn't
recognize
know.
Them, really. Okay.
But yeah,
I mean, they've all been in a decent amount of stuff. It is funny. The one you did mention that I completely forgot was in this movie was, is it Max
Greenfield?
Yeah, from New Girl. I totally forgot. He's not in it much, but yeah.
All right. So overall thoughts on this film?
How many times have you seen this?
This is just second time. I saw it once when it came out.
Okay. Well, I've seen it more than that. Do you want to go first, or you want me to go?
I mean,
I'm kind of curious what you.
I mean, I like this film. I think it takes a challenging subject matter and tells it in a compelling way and in a compelling style that I think does a good job of making it kind of still feel like a documentary because it is based on a true story and a lot of true events. And then, I mean, we'll get into it, but like even that they call out a few times, we're like, well, this isn't exactly how it happened, but
right.
Do that. And I like that because it's like just treating the audience with like being like, hey, no, this is the truth. This is what, clever, again, we'll talk about these things, but clever things, ways of kind of getting your attention to explain some exposition. But yeah, and just like a very, before this film, I had never seen it done that way. So,
no.
And even since, like, that's what kind of, after watching this, I guess about 10 years later, because it's 2015, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't think I saw it in the theater, so I might not watch it till, but anyway, roughly 10 years later. Just still see like some of that stuff. I'm like, I mean, and like I said, about the biggest thing that I felt like I've seen that even feels like it was inspired by this was Succession. Like, I think the way Succession is shot was like stylistically very similar to this. And of course, like you said, the music actually happens to have the same composer. And then Adam McKay directed an episode, but and it's kind of tackling not the same subject matter, but similar, like, just kind of wealthy institution taking, it's like, obviously
there's some similarities.
Media, not, the media empire versus just banks, but like, still but like I said, like, still some fresh stuff in here, or stylistic choices and things that I don't think I've seen very much else otherwise since.
Yeah, definitely Succession. That's what I thought about it watching it this time. Like, it kind of did pave the way for that in some ways, like the way it was shot. Even though I don't think it's not the same cinematographer, but like I guess kind of, because I forget the name of the creator of Succession, but maybe Adam McKay then gave him some of that style that
maybe
brought over to that. I don't know, because I do see some similarities, which that would have started only a couple years after this. That was probably like 2017, 2018.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I mean, again, we talk about it, like, it's interesting because, like, before this, I would say, and Steve Carell being like, The Office definitely pioneered this style of like using doc style shooting, where you get these like pop zoom ins and things like that, like you're catching these moments, even though it's a narrative actually and not a documentary. You're not actually, but like they did that as a more comedic bent on, because it was like the whole premise is that there was a documentary crew. That's why there was even cameras at this office, right?
Yeah, and that was crazy in The Office. Even though it wasn't as good later on, but like that final season, they even incorporated some of the camera crew like into the storyline. It was weird, but yeah. Have you seen Winning Time? Because I would say that also.
I have not seen Winning Time.
Okay, very similar. Just stylistically, the way that's shot, and like, a lot of like quick cuts and all that. Very similar in that show too, which I think that show is really great. It already got canceled, and I'm not huge into basketball, but it's still just interesting because it's just about like the rise of the Lakers. But it has a lot of like John C. Reilly. I don't know. There's a lot of people in that as well. But yeah. But I'll just say, I mean, I've seen this more than twice. I really like this movie. I have, even when I first watched it, and it's definitely unique, and I really gravitated toward it. Like the style of it's very stylish. And I think it's, you kind of said this too, how it's like, it's entertaining. And I think it's very entertaining, which is even harder to do with all this like complicated financial talk and issues, which they do in a clever way, like you mentioned, to make it a little bit easier to understand, like really complicated aspects of it. But I think it's done really well, and it's entertaining the whole time, even though it'd be really easy to, for it to be very boring because of the subject matter. So yeah. And of course our a lot of the cast too helps with that, and elevating the dialogue and all that. So yeah.
Well, let's get into talking about story. So,
yeah.
I don't know
What
where
do
you
you
want to
got? Or
start.
where do you
I
want to start?
got stuff, but nothing like going in any order, like as much
No,
of.
that's fine. I only got a couple of things anyways, just kind of bigger things.
Well, it's like one of the things we were talking about. Let's talk about the fourth wall breaking,
Oh, yeah.
which is interesting from, like I said, in kind of, I mean, one, I think it's, you've got this thing where you're making it kind of doc style anyway. So like, a lot of times documentaries you do interviews, but like these aren't really interviews, but like it allows that person to like be, like I said, like talking to the audience, like the instance where it's like, well, we didn't actually find this here, we discovered it elsewhere, but for visual reasons or story reasons we did it this way, but or the craziest thing is that's really how this happened, or something like they even call that out once too, which is like great. And then of course those couple times we're talking about, like Margot Robbie, Selena Gomez,
Anthony Bourdain.
Yep. Which I think like his is the best. Like he was like cutting the fish and explaining like,
Yeah, it was awesome.
I have the leftover pieces didn't sell, and so I make seafood gumbo or something for the next day. And it's like kind of repackaging the stuff and selling old crap, and like just to be able to do that. And Selena Gomez is one too with the who else? There's someone else with her, but and then they like they were playing. Was it 21? Like
it was.
You're playing at a casino,
right? But yeah, it was like
or was it roulette?
Might have been roulette or something.
But whatever, she was explaining.
Yeah,
and then it's like people betting on her decision and betting on their decision,
right? And it was like
the whole crowd building behind it, which is also which is great. But also just those like moments where it's like, oh, we're gonna do this little detour, but it really makes you perk up, and we're gonna explain something that's a little bit complicated, but we're gonna give you a good metaphor, and so you help understand it. Most time, not again the one with Margot Robbie in the tub there's no metaphor. It's just her in the tub explaining something.
But I think it was because this is one of my notes. I think that's the genius thing with getting random celebrities to explain these things in unique ways. But I think it was perfect for them to start with Margot Robbie, because it's like, oh, it's Margot Robbie in a bathtub, and it's like that's all you need to know. Even though she's explaining,
and that image was like all over the marketing.
Yes, yeah, that was one of the big ones even before the movie came out. And it's obviously one that sticks with you anyway after the movie. But with hers it was mortgage bonds, subprime loans, and tranches was the one I was like not sure about, but then understood a little bit more afterwards. But that was one I wasn't familiar with. I was familiar with the other things, but anyway, so I think it was good to start with her first. And then from there, you can get into something with the other two that is a little more in depth, or has, I guess, more of a physical element to it, to like having to explain it, with him, like you mentioned, in the kitchen, or her at the casino. So,
so as we were talking about before, it's not a particular necessarily one lead character. It's kind of like these 3 or 4 different main stories, right?
I would say 4
stories. Yeah.
Even though the one, not as much, but yeah.
But I think it's interesting, just kind of noted, like all those people were kind of these, like, they're not your typical like heroes, right? Like they're like, for a protagonist, right? They're all these like awkward, nerdy people that like, but I mean, it's because it's a true story, and sometimes the heroes aren't the flashy person that's like the out in front and in public. It's just these guys behind closed doors with computers doing a bunch of math,
for sure,
doing these things, but so just thought that was interesting, like just to have those people be your lead like characters. And I mean, like obviously the guy, whatever, I always forget his name in the movie, but that Christian Bale, Michael Burry is playing. I mean, he's obviously either autistic or something like that guy. Like
like for sure.
At least the way he's playing him, and just doesn't even have social cues at all, and like which is funny because then like one time you're like, "Are you being sarcastic?" And he's just like, "I don't even know how to be sarcastic."
Yes.
Like it's like that's not even something.
I think that's why I was curious if he's the one that got nominated, because I think he's one of the best in this. But to kind of continue with your point, because this is one of my other notes, is our four main people in this film. What I think is so great about them is kind of what you explained, how they're not your typical type of characters, but also what I love is how different all four of them are.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all very unique and in different ways. With Christian Bale, Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling, and Brad Pitt also. Brad Pitt's the one, he's not in it that much. So he's the one but he's still, I guess, because even though we have like those other two younger guys that get in there also, I think of these main four just because they're also like our main four biggest actors, that they casted for this. So
I did just look it up, and it's Christian Bale's.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I kind of figured. I mean,
I bet this
didn't disagree with you. I just was like, I don't know.
And I bet I wonder if this will be in trivia, but I'm wondering what they did with his eye to do that, like, because they even do a quick, flashback to him injuring himself, so he has the glass eye. But like, the effect of it was crazy and looked really real. So just curious how they did that. But anyway, I just so I think that lends it really well to another reason why I think this movie's so entertaining is all four of them.
Mm-hmm.
How weird all four of them are, and unique, but all very different.
Yes, I agree. That kind of leads to the other thing. It was kind of the I guess tragic irony is that if they win, like the world's like is again, and it's not something you would normally not write anything that way intentionally, but it's like if they win, so it's like the whole time it's like you're rooting for these underdogs, so to speak, because they're all the smaller guys trying to make money off the big corporate banks. Yet if they're right and they win, then it means like
America loses.
Yeah. And so then you're like, oh, like I don't really want them to be right. I don't really, but then you feel bad for them because they put all their money in this, because they're like, because the moment where the banks are not adjusting the even though the subprime stuff is going bad and people are defaulting on their loans, they weren't adjusting the it's the lunch of like, is it like CDOs or whatever they were?
Yeah, that was the one they got really in depth to towards the end. Yeah, which is crazy, that concept in general. Just because I hadn't seen this movie in a while and pay attention more to like these different terms this time. Also, because it's been a while, and I guess just like with any movies we talk about, the older you get, you either and where you are in your life, you focus on different things or get something out of something that you would have seen before. So this time I was paying more attention to like those kind of things. I was like, man, that really is crazy what they did with, specifically the CDO. I think that's what it was. I don't remember what it stood for.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that like it wasn't adjusting that. So then they were still saying, oh no, we're not going to pay you any money.
Yeah.
And they're like, how's that possible? And of course they find out the regulatory is like corrupt too, because of and then you're like, what the heck? Which is like not surprising. Like, I mean,
no.
At one hand, because you're like, Because I mean, most of the government's corrupt, but
Yeah.
feels like
And they go into that pretty much like, all the way from the bottom to the top. It's corrupt in some way. But then unfortunately that means and they go into this a lot in the movie too, where then because of all this corruption, then really the people that lose is just the normal Americans.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately. So
the wealthy people are good.
Like they'll be fine.
But then also like the freaking crooks.
Yeah.
They get off.
Well, they go at the end and what they say, like only one person actually
went to jail,
served time. Yeah. Or something crazy like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, what? and then I mean, and I remember this when this happened. It was like, oh my gosh, like by like, we bailed them out, which means it's just all a bunch of taxpayer money.
Yeah.
And then a lot of those corporate doofuses, like at the banks, got like bonuses, like millions of dollars of bonuses that year.
Yeah. It's
insane. You're like, there's something wrong, which is probably what spurred him to even, because like you definitely see at the end of The Other Guys where he kind of goes into all that like data about Ponzi schemes and stuff.
Yeah.
And so it was definitely something I feel like has interested him, right? Adam McKay, like you definitely see he's already, even though that movie was not focused on that much at all, but just the fact that the main thing bad guy was doing wasn't trying to take over the world. He was just
yeah, but he was doing something. Yeah, you're right. Something similar to this. Yeah.
Yeah. And, so like, it was obviously something that kind of in it's interesting him. Right. And then all that data at the end in the credits, talking about all these ridiculous things. So it's definitely something that he'd been fascinating on. And then I'm sure with this stuff happening, well, at that point it already happened, of course, by the time The Other Guys came out, but then, finding a book or something that then he could get the rights to and do this. So definitely, I feel like it would definitely be a passion project for him as a writer, director.
I think you're right. Cause it's a lot of times you hear the whole thing in Hollywood with directors, one for them, one for me. It definitely seems like that because in between The Other Guys, he does Anchorman 2, which is probably like, because he's probably thinking of The Big Short, like to your point, after The Other Guys, but then they were like, hey, let's do a sequel to Anchorman because everyone loved it. And he was like, all right, fine. So that's for them to make money doing that. And then
we'll green light.
Yeah, then he.
But then they probably also were like this, because I mean, again, this budget was pretty small, like you said. Like I think it was smaller than Anchorman 2.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
and it might be because they felt like this was a risk, right? A studio been like, hey, you don't know how to do drama.
That's true. Maybe he was trying to do it before Anchorman 2. Yeah, to your point.
And I mean, it might be in some of the trivia we get into, but like, just thinking like, and they were like, well, we'll greenlight this and this at this budget, which is like, 28 million or whatever, 25 million, and he went over whatever. So I feel like that's always the case too. But, right. So maybe they said 25 and he ended up doing 28, but, we'll give you this budget, but it's obviously a modest budget compared to if he was going to do another of The Other Guys, like that was like $100 million budget, right? So like a studio is not afraid to give him money because he has a track record, unless it's something like this that's like, okay, this is completely different and out of your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And so then it's a risk, right? And of course, then it becomes, won an Oscar and got nominated for a bunch of others.
Yeah.
Which is awesome to see.
It is awesome.
Which is also funny because I feel like, speaking to the other kind of comedic director that we did recently, and he just does all these comments, then he decides to do something more serious like the Joker, and then also kind of gets all these accolades for that as well. So
true, yeah, very similar, yeah.
But probably was also a passion, because like to do that pivot, you got to really want it, right? And so it's got to be something you're like, no, I want to do this. I have this idea, and it's he's passionate about it. So, anyway,
yeah. One other thing I wanted to mention that I really like in this movie, and it's kind of sprinkled throughout the whole thing, is I love how and it's normally just some like quick cuts, but I love how they randomly throw in just different pop culture moments from 2006 and 2007 mainly. Because obviously we get like a little shot of the first iPhone. What else is in there? Oh, I love the Ludacris music video. Because I remember that song
Britney Spears. There's clear.
Yeah, but the Ludacris one in particular, because I even remember that video. That video was massive, but I remember that song was everywhere too. Like I remember that. I didn't realize it was around that time, but yeah. So random things like that. Even a few memes also, or like really short viral videos. Like they threw a couple of those in too, which was great. It was also just nostalgic because that's like going on close to 20 years now. But
it did a good job of setting the stage of where America was at the time, just like you would with a documentary, kind of like, again.
Yeah. Oh, they always do that in documentaries.
Yeah. Like just to kind of give you, and so it's just, like I said, I really think it's got a unique style here that they kind of toe that line between documentary and narrative, because they're telling a true story, but obviously not, but it's not interviewing people and just overlaying like previous stuff, but like news stories, it's, they're dramatizing it at some point level too.
Yeah.
So
which I honestly normally prefer. I mean, a documentary is cool, but like I like seeing, like, if it's an interesting story, I like to see it reenacted, in a way. But I don't know. It's just something I gravitate more toward, especially if it's done really well. But yeah, it is funny because I don't think we really see it. We just see it in a moment, like kind of the unveiling of the iPhone, but we don't see anyone using them yet because they're all using BlackBerries, which was the thing right before that. Like, especially in the financial sphere, like in Wall Street, everything, it was all BlackBerries at that time.
For sure.
I have one more note. I don't know. What else do you have to touch on?
Before getting into cinematography stuff, I just had the general note about the like when the Florida housing market, when they visited, like that stuff, like just wow, like crazy stuff. I mean, that was just same with like a little bit also with the Vegas one though, and with that guy there when he's having like sushi with him or whatever, the other guys are all sitting at the other table, and he's just being. But I love the scene because Steve Carell's character is so different, and then he's like, why are they messing with me? And then why are they just confessing to everything? And then the other guys are like, I think they're bragging, like, and you're like, yeah. And then he's like talking to the stripper, and she's got like 5 houses or whatever. But and again, the crazy thing is, I remember this. I remember because I remember acquaintance being like, oh yeah, you can just get a loan without even like paperwork. I remember that, like, and that's what they were talking about. I remember that happening. Because I was like, I remember asking this person, like, because I was like, how'd you qualify? How'd you get that? And he's like, oh, they don't even. I got a guy that can just get me a loan for I don't even really fill out paperwork.
Right. Yeah. Because
no credit check, no back, like none of that stuff.
So let's say this was 20 years ago. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I was still aware of this time, but yeah, you were like mid-20s at that time. Yeah. So then I was a teen. I guess I would have just got my license probably or something. I don't know. But yeah. So I don't remember like the housing part as much. To your point, like what you're talking about. But that is crazy. So you were talking to people even then, they were just like sign up for a house like nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I remember like, I'm like, dude, how do you? It was just somebody, one of those people they're like, you don't manage you don't have money, like and then like they were like,
but they have it, and
they're like, oh no, we just bought a house, and I'm like, how'd you
do that? Yeah,
and they're like, oh, he's like, I got a guy who can just give me a loan, no paperwork, nothing really, and you can, and I was like, how is that even okay? And then like it was like, but it was these adjusted or there was like a 5-year arm, like, so it's like really low interest rate at first, but then after 5 years, whatever. And so that was like probably the early 2000s when that was happening. And so it would have been one of these in that, like, that bubble before then things got bad. Also just interesting to note, like, we definitely, I sold my house before the crash, that, like, but didn't wait.
Oh, did you? Was it before then?
The Jordan Road house, we sold that beforehand, because we sold that the year before Addie was born, which was 2007. So we sold that in the summer of 2006. So
you did just in time.
Just in time. But we didn't wait quite long enough
to get the
We should have waited an extra year to buy, like, so stuff had come down, but not completely. So then even though we waited a year and didn't purchase until I think late 2007, the house, and we, Brimwood Street house, even after we purchased it, it did go down a little bit in value initially.
Right.
Now we lived there for like 7 years, and
a long time.
And put some, like, we finished out the basement ourselves. So so eventually when it came around to selling it, like, it was worth more than when we bought it. But
I'm trying to think, was that also around the time of, well, we don't need to get too much into this because no one's going to care listening to this, but with Micah's house too in Virginia Ave, that would have been around that then also, I want to say. So I remember going over there around then, like I was probably like 17 years old.
Well, definitely, I will say the house that we got up here was after it, and that's one of the, because it was foreclosed on. That they had here in Smithsburg.
Yes.
That's how he got it, because it was.
And it's insane what these houses are now. Yeah. Anyway, well, that's a. I mean, I have
and then you had, like, everything went up during COVID. So, like, so even like this house that we're in now, like, what was worth beforehand, what's worth now is like crazy.
And I have a note about this kind of when we get to themes and messages that we can get into more also. But I wanted to say my last note, I just wanted to shout out one of my favorite scenes is when Ryan Gosling, Jared Vinay, I don't know if they ever say it. I feel like people say it in different ways in the movie on purpose, but when he first goes to Mark, which is Steve Carell's office, and pitches the deal to him through the Jenga tower, is just like incredible. Also, the whole time he's doing through this, like, explaining through this Jenga tower, he's roasting everyone, and even his main guy next to him just yelling at him all the time, saying how he's standing too close to him, just stuff like that. Like, it's so good. His character is like, I mean, again, like the stereotypical douchebag Wall Street guy, but like he plays him perfectly in this, especially in that scene.
And I love also it, like, he's narrating, and he's like, when they're later in the bar or something, and he's like, looks like him, he's like, I told you we'd meet again. And then he's like, and I wouldn't, and really I didn't hang out with these guys because these guys are a bunch of losers, but they stuck me here for the story purposes or something.
He made sure to look at the camera and, and say that.
Yeah, it was good. Cool. Well, I was getting the cinematography then, if that's what you got. So some of the stuff we kind of touched on as we were talking, but again, the documentary style, lighting and camera work. I mean, a lot of handheld stuff. We had this, like, the pop zooms and even some quick pans and things like that, just like you would do when you're shooting.
But that's the stuff that reminds me the most of, like, that's why it seemed like they kind of lended or brought its way to Succession.
Correct.
To make it Succession.
Succession did that all the time.
Yeah. And so this was kind of the thing before.
And the reality is, like, from the time I watched this to like watching Succession, like, I had forgotten, didn't connect the two. Yeah. But then watching, 5 seasons or whatever of Succession.
Yeah.
And then going back and watching this now. It just, it was like, oh, okay. Yeah. This was what.
And all the other connections, like we talked about, like Jeremy Strong being in this, Nicholas Britell, with the score for both. Yeah. It's cool. I want to say there's even someone else.
It was hard not to see Jeremy Strong as, like,
as the firstborn.
Well, not firstborn.
No. Oh, no. I mean, he basically was, though, in his father's eyes.
Yeah, and yeah. What's his name in the?
I know I'm blanking now, just because that show's been over a little bit. It hasn't been off that long though, because I remember us talking about it in our top 10. So since we've been doing the pod, it finished.
Yeah, but it wasn't last year. It was the year before.
It was the year before that. Yeah. That was my main note for cinematography, was asking like, does this kind of pave the way for Succession? But I do also mentioning, I do like how stylish it is, and especially like the thing that I took away from it the most is like, this is more editing than cinematography, but just like insane amount of quick edits, which is kind of Adam McKay's thing going forward. Like I said, to some of his newest things he's done too, he does that same thing. But I don't know. Do you know of any other like filmmakers that kind of do that thing or have done that thing since then?
Like not in this way that comes to mind. I mean, like, okay. And also it's much more common in like a documentary style thing than.
Sure. I guess they do a lot of quick edits in normal documentaries too. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Like a little quick montage of something like you're talking about. That's the parts you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like where it's like pop culture stuff and historical stuff from like that time period.
Yeah, it's true. I guess that's a normal documentary.
It's common in that, but like to see it done this way in a narrative,
right,
is definitely a little different.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Trying to think, like, because we kind of touched on this stuff, but one thing I was like again, the lighting for the doc style, which is most of the stuff, but then they shot it very very lit, so to speak, for those like kind of the talk to the camera stuff. So like the Margot Robbie, the like even the casino stuff, like it was all like more. That looked more like a movie. Looked like a movie, right? Yeah. Which is also funny because they're kind of changing it up and being like, oh, whoa, this feels out of place, feels very slick and polished and blah 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 and but also that's what they were like. Yeah. Inserted.
Well, no, I do want to hear more about the lighting because I didn't pay attention to that as much. I didn't realize it was lit more like a documentary, like you said.
Which is like not lit. Like it's like very subtle and I mean, I'm sure they were using lights, but like it's done to be very much more naturalistic and not as like, even though in film it's like kind of like you're supposed to try to make sure the lighting's motivated and all that stuff. And they do normally. I mean, but it's still like a lot of times like stylized, like, over the top. Yeah. Like, even though it's supposed to be natural, you get like moody stuff and do all these, whereas like if you're doing doc style, it's just definitely has like a more of a normally not as extreme contrast and like moody because it's just like naturally life isn't quite like that normally unless you just hit those weird moments.
Yeah.
And so,
but then I notice with, I guess specifically like network comedies, I want to say, are like insanely bright now, like insanely artificially bright. Well, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's just like flat studio lighting. Okay. Because they're on like live audience sets or whatever.
But it's like, I don't know, maybe because it didn't seem that way in like older sitcoms, but like they were using. New ones are like crazy bright.
Well, it's because they were using less lights, probably because I mean they were putting them on there, but like they had limits because those lights were hot. They were took a lot of power.
Now you can do insane.
Now you can like flood it with like crazy LED panels all over and just do like sky panels or something,
and probably cheaper than what it was.
Yeah, and control them and and they just flood it, but. Yeah, if it's a multicam sitcom kind of thing, then that's because they just overlight it more flat like that because they are shooting all angles at the same time.
Oh, that's right.
With like 3 cameras or something, they're at the same time. So so it's just that's got to be just flat like that. But
then I guess in post afterwards, if they need to adjust it all, it makes it easier I don't know. Does it?
Which is even. So like it,
Even. Okay. Yeah,
right. Like
so-
it's just, well, that's what I mean by flat or even. Like there's not
yeah.
heavy shadow on one side or the other.
Right.
Which what the quote unquote cinematic lighting, normally you have like shadow side facing camera.
Yeah. The one, this side of the face. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, and they'll do that in like a narrative thing, even like I think we were talking about this. I've seen it more recent in the last couple of years where you see a scene and you're like, no, they definitely shot this scene with like 3 cameras at once, but they're staging it still, you know, 'cause
Right.
it's just like a scene and it'll be like, here's 2 people talking in front of a window and the camera will be facing towards them and the windows behind them. And it might be artificial light coming through that window, and then they'll put out the camera that covers both as a 2-shot, and then they'll have coverage of both close up. And I'm guaranteed they're just running because again, cameras are a lot cheaper and nowadays, and like there's
Smaller,
data
you
is
can put
infinite.
them-
Yeah, so you can put
hide 'em
3
places
cameras,
too,
run 3
yeah.
cameras, and let them just act the scene out, and you've got coverage, right? Which is why they do the sitcoms that way, because they wanted them to be able to improv and do things, and it's never going to be the same each take. So you just have to,
Yeah.
you know, you just kind of have to let it flow, and hopefully you have 3 cameras for coverage. But
Yeah.
Just looking through my notes because like some of the stuff. To zooms. Fourth wall. Yeah, even just like glances at the camera, just kind of
Mm-hmm.
the culture of footage.
You know what? Also, obviously, this was not the first movie to do a fourth wall break, but it's interesting. Around this time would have been Deadpool 1, which just like took that to an extreme degree, the fourth wall break.
Yeah.
And House of Cards actually probably was around this time too.
Right. And
So
did that.
more people kind of started
Playing
to
with
do
that,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I guess the only other note that's like stuff we didn't talk about, I think they usually, I was just a note about like a lot of POV shots for Burry, Christian Bale's character.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
when he was like, and like, didn't really use that with anybody else, but like with him, I guess just to kind of give the feel from him of his like just awkwardness and
Yeah.
just kind of feel like you're in his weirdness, right? Like, and so you'd see him from his view, looking at things, drumming on things, even like he was hitting the sticks and
Yes.
stuff.
I do. I really like later on where they show how many times he just comes out of his office and erases a number and it just keeps going up to an insane percentage. Well, it was like the actual like what the company's worth. Is that what it was? The number he kept? I think that's what it was.
Yeah, but it was going down most of the time because it was like going negative percentage.
The percentage. I
Yeah,
it
the
kept
number
going-
would go up, but there was like a negative.
Yes. Okay.
So
That's
it's kind of going down. So it was like negative, whatever,
Yes.
1. Well, it's like 4.1 or whatever. It's
went up to like 29.
yeah, it went high.
Yeah.
But then at the end,
Yep.
he erases it and it's like whatever, something crazy, 100 and some.
Yeah, and also
Percent
just like all the emails, like anytime he's just the amount of emails he gets, like immediately when a lot of stuff with it was interesting. But yeah, again, each of these people are so different because even Brad Pitt's character, he's not in it much, but he's just like this like crunchy, like hippie dude that's like off the grid and keeps wanting to get more off the grid.
Which then, I think I assume is because that's true story.
Yeah.
They do it, but like, then he's like randomly in England, right?
All right. Yeah.
When they wanted, and I mean, it just must have been what happened. And so then
Yeah, I guess.
they wanted to keep it true. I'm sure they didn't actually bother flying over there just to film
No.
a pub scene that they could just find a pub that like,
Yeah.
But, it's just, one of those things. It's like, again, if you were writing the story, you would just not even bother making that happen. But, because it's based on true events, you kind of want to be true to what happened. That was interesting that the more they decide, like, Steve Carell's character, we got to see, because he would call and talk to his wife. But then, like, some of the other, like Brad Pitt, like, other than just not Brad Pitt, Christian Bale's character, like, other than, like, the picture on the thing, like,
or you hear her voice. That's really
heard her voice when he was, like, at home, but but they didn't have him actually, like, really interacting with her.
Yeah, because I guess they're not really integral to the story, but then at the same time, like, was Marissa Tomei really either? So, it's like, why'd they cast her? Mm-hmm. Even though obviously she's great, but it's like, why they even put her in there at all then, if it's not really part of the story? Yeah,
I don't know if they were hoping, because I feel like the whole thing with, I get,
maybe there was stuff that got cut though.
Yeah, she was helping play into the backstory of, like, him losing his brother or whatever, which is what half motivating him to stick it to the man kind of thing. And
that's true.
But like, I don't know that it really helped, because it's just such a small part, at least what ended up in the final cut. But you're right. Like, maybe there was more there, and that's why they had her. And then,
yeah.
But yeah, I think, it's like I said, we kind of covered a lot of the other stuff, but it's just a interesting stylistic movie from a narrative, whatever thing in between. So
it is, for sure.
All right. So you want to talk a little bit about the score, Nicholas Bertel?
Yeah, I don't really have much to say about it. Just in general, all of his scores are just really great, but really unique too. Like, for instance, obviously the Succession score, which you already mentioned, but even Andor, which is like the current thing right now, is so unique, and I love it. It still feels like Star Wars at times, but a lot of the time also it's just very unique, even though it's a Star Wars show, which, like, that's cool that they let him do that, and not try to force him to just make it just sound like John Williams or something. But anyway, yeah, so all of his different scores he's done for shows and movies are just always very unique. That's one of the reasons why I like him a lot, because it all still really works with it, but he's always very creative with them too. And that's what he did in this one too. This one, there's not as much. There's a few needle drops too, but that's like for very short sections that just like cut off. Like, and a lot of the time there's not even score at all. It's just dialogue. Like, they don't have anything going on at all. So.
Oh. All right. Well, about themes and messages.
Yeah, my note for this is really just history is destined to repeat itself. Just in general, but also this is the kind of thing I wanted to ask about. Like, are we maybe on the verge of something like this happening again?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's interesting to think about.
Yeah.
Now that, we're almost 20 years from when this happened last. But like, some of the big things they get into, I'm like, this is still all things that for sure still happen.
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah.
Where's that going to go in the future?
Regulated things supposedly, but yeah.
But not really.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I feel like then it's going to, it could be, hopefully not, but it could be even more detrimental if it does happen again. I don't know. But anyway, something I wanted to ask about, if it's like, do we think this could potentially happen again sometime soon?
Something like it. Maybe not the same.
Yeah, not specifically the housing crisis, but something like it, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, who knows? Yeah.
Do you have anything for themes?
I mean, I just like, I think it's the just greed in general just corrupts so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's like prevalent throughout this, right? Like, and people do just about anything to make lots of money.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then how corrupt all this stuff.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's how it is. Again, though, I mean, I wonder how different or how similar it is in other countries.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's look at a little trivia from IMDb. It says Christian Bale met with the real Dr. Michael Burry. He asked to have Burry's cargo shorts and t-shirt, which he then wore in the movie.
Nice.
Well, okay. The real Michael Burry made a cameo in the film as a Cyan employee.
Oh. That's something interesting. Did any of these people appear in the movie besides him?
Yeah.
These
here's so funny because it's so funny. So Michael Lewis, the author of the book, in an interview said Paramount Pictures allowed director screenwriter Adam McKay to make this film only if he agreed to make Anchorman 2.
There we go. Makes sense.
We speculated, but yeah, and sure enough. The guy, Jeffrey Griffin, who's the scene for Ryan Gosling, or the assistant for Ryan Gosling, was an extra on set for the day. He was pulled out of the crowd to play Jared Venetta's assistant, Chris. Mm-hmm. Later, his role was expanded to 2 weeks of filming, sharing every scene with Ryan Gosling.
Nice.
So, like...
She was just an extra.
Went from an extra to, like...
That's great.
Yeah. It says Lola FX did the special effects for Christian Bale's glass eye in the film.
Okay.
Director Adam McKay did not want it to be too obtrusive, since in reality you're not that aware of someone's glass eye, except the odd occasion when it doesn't move. So they painstakingly went through every shot to get it just right.
Okay. This is good trivia. This is all stuff we were wondering about anyway.
Oh yeah, I had a note about this, and then which was funny, but so Michael Burry named his hedge fund company Cyan Capital after his favorite childhood book, The Scions of Shannara, or Shannara.
Oh, he's reading that book.
And I read a note about it because I've read The Sword of Shannara.
Oh, okay.
Which is probably from the same series, but I don't think I made it to that particular book.
No, I definitely remember noticing the book he was reading of that.
Yeah, I made a note of it
cool.
and forgot to bring it up. But now, Margot Robbie claimed she was drinking 20-year-old Dom Perignon champagne during her scene in the bathtub. The only challenge was that she didn't have to read her lines from memory.
Wait, so it wasn't 20-year-old? She claims it was?
She claims it is, but no one knows. Like, no one can confirm, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Or no one's confirmed it.
Yeah.
It said Adam McKay wasn't even though they'd been friends for a long time, he wasn't thinking of Steve Carell for the role until he saw his performance in Foxcatcher, which I've never seen that movie.
I'm not familiar with that one.
And then I guess in some special features on the Blu-ray, Adam McKay said he wrote the role of Jared Venetta only for Ryan Gosling in mind.
Well, that makes sense. It was perfect for it.
The Wolf of Wall Street, which came out in 2013, and then The Big Short 2015,
Yeah.
which both include Margot Robbie,
Yeah.
saw a resurgence of popularity in 2021 with the short squeeze of the American retailer GameStop. I remember when all the GameStop stuff was happening.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, also AMC. It was GameStop and AMC. They don't say much, but that was the other one.
We didn't mention that, but there's a lot of similarities to Wolf of Wall Street, for sure, with this movie.
This was the second film based on a Michael Lewis book that Brad Pitt produced, because I guess he was a producer on this, which might be why, just thinking about it, like if him and like some of these guys are just producers, and then they just have these like kind of minor, more not major roles, and then they might not be getting paid because they're getting a producer.
No, I do know Brad Pitt has a production company that he's had for a long time now.
The first film was Moneyball, was also
sick.
based on Michael Lewis' book.
Yeah.
Christian Bale took 2 weeks to learn to play the drums sufficiently enough to play the intro song by The Demons Be Driven by Pantera. I guess is what he was playing.
Yeah. Yeah, when he's at home, yeah.
Yeah. I think it covers most of what's there. So, final thoughts on this film?
I think it's great.
Yeah, I think it holds up. I think it still rings true to, as you were talking earlier, like it still doesn't feel like we have any more trust in these institutions than we did before this.
Right.
And just naiveness back then, and now, like after something like that, it's like, when's it going to happen again? Because they're got to be doing shady crap behind the scenes, and just doing more dog crap wrapped in cat crap.
Yes, that was it's a good line from this. I like the Ryan Gosling line. What was it? He said, standing in front of your house, like your house is burning, and I'm offering you fire insurance here, or something like that. That was a good line.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let us know your thoughts on this film. Do you have any? You can definitely leave a comment or write in.
Yeah.
feedback@screentimepod.com.
Leave a comment. You think, when do you predict that this will happen again?
Our next film is Vice.
Yes. This is the only movie of his I have not seen.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I believe Christian Bale is also in this one. I don't remember who else is in it though. Maybe Amy Adams. Which is cool. So
cool. But yeah. Well, appreciate you guys watching or listening. And like I said, if you have something you'd like to share, please write in. You can like and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube, and send an email or feedback at screentimepod.com, or leave a comment. And you can also follow us on social media on Instagram, TikTok, all at Screen Time Pod. And some of those there's underscores in some of them, but you'll find us.
yes.
And if you'd like to follow each of us on Instagram, I'm at Jay Youngbar.
And I'm at Jared Youngbar.
All right. Catch you guys next time.